Good morning and welcome to The Secret. And you're probably wondering, secret? Well, anyway, I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host. And I have a show that I do. It's found out through Facebook and it's via YouTube. It's a live show. We have guests on the show. And we talk about matters dealing with social services with the Child Protection Branch, or in some states it's called the Department of Health Services or Child Services, DCS. Yeah. Um, so there's different names across the country with how children are protected and how families are reunified. But anyway, the secret that I have is how to fight CPS and how to win and get your kids back. It's so important we keep families together. I'm Bob Pace. I'll be your host for the next hour. We do have guest speakers. We have one lined up. Her name is Stephanie, and she is trying to come on and tell about her story. We love to hear from people um, out there about your story, and it's very important uh, that you're able to express yourself and maybe get help. Now, there's several ways you interact with the show. The first way is that you can text a message, and I will uh, see your comment. And what you want to do is you want to put your state that you're calling from, your name, and um, you can write your question about a CPS matter, something to do with your family involving with child protection services. And um, then I'll try to read it and then have it broadcast. Now, there is several phone numbers besides the text in your comments. Is that you can call in at 888-888-6582. That number is used for several reasons. First one is my office. That's how you can contact me, and you can schedule a appointment to be on my show with your date and time. Also, that same number, 888-888-6582, is a number to schedule your time with a lawyer. This show is sponsored by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. There is a trial lawyer who's a family law lawyer professional that will offer a 30-minute to an hour um, con- um, strategy meeting with him to talk about your case at no charge. And if you like to hear what he has to say, you should hire him because he's the best in the business. We are in Southern California, but we go all over. We go to Northern California, and we go across the United States. You can do it any particular place. Last week he was in Oklahoma and then Northern California, so he does go around helping out families get reunited and getting their kids back. Another way you can respond or interact is the number 626-690-990. That's my direct line to my phone. And if you call that number, after a brief moment of talking to you, I can put you live on the air and you can talk about your case. And that's a direct approach if you want to talk about it. We do have someone in the queue. Uh, Her name is Stephanie. I don't know where she's from, but Stephanie, can you hear me? If you can hear me, Stephanie, you want to tell you about your CPS. Make sure you start at the beginning and don't give out specific names or specific locations. A state is fine. A location. I'm in California, southern part of California, and Vincent W. Davis, the attorney's in Southern California. So, Stephanie, are you ready to come on, or do you want to wait a bit? Our producer, Grace, if you're there, do you want Stephanie to come on? Yes. Okay, well, I guess that she's still working out some technical difficulties. Um, anyway, my producer said that she's ready to come on. She has talked and so forth. But what I like to do is start off, first of all, to let you know that if you have a CPS case involving your family, it is not to worry, not to panic. It is very scary. I had one myself in 2015, and I did not do well trying to fight it on my own. And why I bring this up, there's a real important um, analogy here. You know, if you're going to have something wrong with your body, or you're going to have surgery, or you have something to work on it, you get what's called a doctor, a licensed doctor that has been, he does an internship for a couple years before he becomes a doctor. But that doctor knows how to do surgery. Well, sadly to say, CPS is not easy to do on your own. You're going to have to uh, know how to navigate and know your rights um, to fight CPS. And we're not prepared with that. It's going to happen to you so quick that you are going to, uh, be really stressed out. Because why? Well, something's gone wrong, a hiccup, and some allegations have come in. The downside of these allegations are they are true until they're proven innocent, meaning CPS, Child Protection Services, has to take them for what they're worth and investigate. And during the investigation, there's a lot of things that can happen that you have to be aware of. And so when these allegations are made, sad to say, a lot of these allegations are false. A lot of them have alternative motives, such as maybe um, 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 when um, a custody battle is going on, one part, one spouse may pit the other spouse. I've heard some horrendous stories. One was so ridiculous with the allegation that a guy in North Carolina had a fiance who had divorced her husband, and he was retaliating by making allegations and using CPS for his own mean. He was doing alienation, and that's a term I want you to remember. We'll talk more about that in the show. But he was accusing that the man that she was a fiance to was having his children, who were with his fiance, but she had custody rights, were eating carpet. And billy goats won't eat carpet. I mean, there's things that billy goats eat, but I don't think that is. But that was ridiculous. And so CPS starts the investigation. So the investigation is one of the worst things to do, to go through, because you're going to be really stressed out. I was too. I mean, for months and months and months, we had numerous allegations. These allegations were made um, by family members on my wife's side. And we did not know about this until later on. I mean, it's sad because what I know now, I would have been better prepared to handle my case and maybe have all my children returned and save my home. And um, it was bad to happen in my life because it happened instead of my young life. It happened after I raised three children who are living on their own, and then there's three more children because I was in a second marriage, and I was at the age of 60 when I was laid off, and I wasn't laid off. The only thing I was laid off is because the contract work that I acquired. I worked in construction. The contract work that I had acquired um, were public funds, and the agency of the state um, wanted to use those funds for another matter. The governor wrote me IOUs, and yeah, IOUs, and that's a hard thing to get because in 2010 the banks in 2008 collapsed. 2007 is when it really started, and I had lost half a retirement, and it's all due to predatory loans. People getting loans that shouldn't have gotten loans. And what is meant by a predatory loan is where they doctor your documents, such as increasing your income so you qualify for a home. The alternative motive is that so that these people um, could get bonuses because it's a lucrative business. That's why they went out of business pretty fast, because good things eventually will. When the banks collapse and the lenders collapse and so forth, the state of California was faced with how to cut corners, just like Michigan, the city of Detroit was having financial difficulties. And so my company depended on me getting work. I'm a salesman and estimator. I generate work. That was my purpose there. And so I generate all this work, but we couldn't get started. I tried for credit lines. It didn't still work. And so I was going through at age 60 being laid off. And then, if you're age 60, they don't like hiring people that are 60. It's usually a dead end thing there. But I was determined. And so I was struggling with that. Well, I had a perfect storm brewing. Not only did I lose half my retirement to the predatory loan market, I also lost contract work uh, due to the mismanagement of the state, and no job, and that further led me into the next encounter is that um, my family, my side of my family was dying, meaning that they're old, they're in their 80s, they're in their last years, and my dad and mom wanted to liquidate their home and use those proceeds to help them medically. And could I take their belongings? Well, if I rethought the whole process, I would have said no. But I love my mom and dad. I'm a loving guy, a loving father, husband, and so forth. And I wanted to help out my mom and dad, so I took the belongings. Well, I should have put them in storage. I lived in a real big home, real expensive home close to the beach, and it was a private neighborhood, meaning it had CC&Rs and there's certain things you can do. I was told that even though I had a neat and tidy uh, uh, stack of furniture and belongings covered with tarps in my driveway, the neighborhood said, no, you can't do that. You either got to put it in your yard out of the view or in your home. Well, it's a lot of belongings. It was my parents' house of 4,000 square feet. Not everything, but I got it all together with my youngest daughter, who came with me with a U-Haul truck, and we loaded everything up and moved it out. And so, that being said, I had a lot of things going against me. I had a lot of belongings in the house. I had no job, lost the income, and so forth. And then I had family members, instead of helping, say, we offered to help you. They did nothing. They did nothing. It was the hardest thing to swallow. Um, that being said, is that by law, Child Protection Services has to investigate every call. They also are mandated by law to protect our children from neglect and abuse. And the neglect and abuse has several areas. In the abuse part, it can be physical abuse, where a parent uses excessive corporate punishment, or a parent beats their children so that bodily harm comes to them. They could um, do other means of physical abuse. Now, the other part of physical abuse can be sexual abuse. Now, what I mentioned about sexual abuse is sexual abuse can be outlined in lots of ways. One is gratification by one parent over the use of doing something with minors. You have to understand that Child Protection Services handles anybody under 18 years of age. So sex with minors and drugs are no. And you can't do that while you have minors in the house. And that's even people watching them. It has to be an 18-year-old adult watching children. You just can't, and this is in the state of California. It may vary from state to state, but you can't have a 12-year-old watching kids. You can't have a 12-year-old doing drugs with your children or a girlfriend. But there's a lot of complications. Also, there is, um, besides sexual gratifications, there's prostitution of children, either through a parent making pictures of their children naked doing heinous acts, or selling their children in the slave trade, or um, also using your children in prostitution. It's really sad to say that prostitution of children is an epidemic worldwide. I live in an area that's the number one uh, place where children are stolen and taken out. And, keep in mind, stolen, they are gone the next day. They're gone so fast. It's unbelievable how fast people are able to move things out of the country. They just take them, board them on board containers. They're on the ship and they're a long sea and they're long gone. Then they arrive overseas, their passports are taken, or IDs are taken, or they don't have IDs, and they're in the slave trade. And then they're used for further sexual exploitations or as slaves of rich family homes or body parts. It's really sad. So, a third area of abuse is abuse, um, domestic abuse. What I mean by that is you cannot yell at your children. You cannot yell with your spouse or partner in front of your children. That is domestic abuse. You have to refrain from that. I know all of you know, and you probably use timeouts with your children. We as adults need to do timeouts ourselves. If we're at a heated argument, it's time to do a timeout. Break away, unwind, then come back and talk away from the children. Set up a time and a place, maybe at a park, at a beach, at the library. Some places a closed room that you can have your privacy. I should take back the library because most libraries you can't talk in there and you have to get a special room. But anyway, wherever you live, I live close to beach, so it's easy for me to take a time out, go for a walk, and there's lots of things to do at the beach, and then come back and talk about it. But the domestic violence, it doesn't have to be hitting or things like that. It could be just yelling and screaming at your kids, demeaning your kids, alienating your kids from one parent to another parent. Alienation's bad. And alienation doesn't just happen among partners or among husbands and wife. They happen with family members. Also, regrettably, CPS uses alienation, alienate your kids from you. And the sole purpose of um, CPS is supposed to watch your kids and family unification. They've deviated from that now. It's a money making business, and they want to have your children in custody. And they'll do anything wrong. They're not transparent, and they will not help you. They will not help you. As I said, I once had a beautiful home. I needed some financial help. I needed a job, or I needed some financial help to put things in storage. My yard was getting overgrown, and the house was getting to become quite a chore. And um, so, it's sad to say I found out that CPS is not your friend. They don't do what they preach, and they lie and cheat and steal your children. My children were great children as far as parents go. My three older children are great children. They're doing quite well. My young children, one was in private school. He wanted to become a robotic engineer and take STEM classes. Another one was elementary school, following his brother, and their sister was in middle school, going to a good public school, and wanted to do things with sports and stuff, and so she had goals. They're well dressed, well taken care of, well fed, and everything, but the family members said just the opposite. And every time I meet with a social worker, a couple times I think I met in the house, and that time was before my parents' belongings were there, and they saw the house was okay, and they saw the children's bedroom that were clean and spotless, their own little castle. Each child had their own bedroom. Um, And so when they interviewed them, they didn't interview the children, they interviewed me. I said there's really nothing wrong. And so they were happy, content. And they said, I showed them the utility bills because one of the allegations was, oh, you don't have power, you're not feeding your kids. I showed them the refrigerator full of money and explained my predicament. Later, they kept showing up again and again. Every time they got an allegation, they'd show up again. And I started meeting with them outside. Well, this went on for months. Then they tried to interview our children. And by law, they can't interview your children. And they can do it at school. And you, as parents, are called by the school to show up because your children are being interviewed. You need to be in the area, but not with them. They don't want any coaching coming from the parents. Little did I know that CPS does coaching. They do things to alienate the kids from the parents. Very, very sad to say. And so, with that being said and that taking place, um, they were further and further harassing me and my home and my family to the point where one day they tricked me into following a detective home and they used the police department because they thought some extreme awful thing was happening because they weren't in the home and the stories that the family members were saying. I had no idea. I knew at the beginning they didn't like the idea of me marrying their daughter. They didn't show up at the wedding, um, but they did do some visits, and they wanted our grandchildren really bad. They wanted um, my wife's second born. My wife went through a lot of tragedies growing up that she didn't realize until this incident happened. But she went through a lot of things. Her mother did physical abuse, uh, boiling hot water thrown on her, coffee thrown on her, almost drowned. Then her brother molested her, unprotected by her parents. They didn't want to listen or anything. And then on top of that, she went to a concert at 15, um, and she got separated from her older sister, who was over 18 at the time. She shouldn't have been at the concert. She was too naive about it. But then she got out of the bathroom, and then she met these two guys that said, "Oh, we'll help you find back to your party." Well, when you have 100,000 people or 50,000 people, it's hard to find your way around. And so she was raped. So here she has her first sexual experience. Of course, she's pregnant. Of course, she um, gave the child for adoption. She didn't abort it. She could have. And I'm glad that that didn't happen because I don't think abortion should be a form of birth control. I think it should be a woman's prerogative to decide whether to abort or not. And it should be in matters that she feels it's necessary for her health or well being, whatever the case is. But this child turned in to be a captain in the Air Force, or I think he's probably a major now. And um, we got a text message came in. Here's Andrew. You guys are texting, and I need to know the state, and you have to use proper names for your names. We have a second person here that we don't want to do animosity and use language that is not professional against the agency. Um, so I know you guys are angered out there. I know you guys are fighting out there. But again, I like the name and what state you're calling from and a little bit about your case that I can help you on. So my wife was going through, things that she discovered. CPS with us brought out all the disappointments that I believed in government, in the police, and so forth. We need them. They are important to have because there are parents that do hurt children, that don't protect children. I mentioned abuse, with it being physical and sexual and domestic abuse, but there's neglect that they need to protect the children. Are the children being fed? Are they being clothed? Are they being taken to school? Are they getting enough sleep? Neglect. Are they in danger of something happening to them, and so forth? And the one thing that CPS did investigate and find out that both my wife and I were neglected because we weren't protecting our children from the storage of my parents' belongings, meaning boxes that are piled high. I'm talking like 3 boxes high. Still, our children weren't that small. They weren't babies. They were 9 and 12 and 15 at the time. Um, that was one of our glitches. But they took that and they really did extreme, so extreme that when they tricked me and had me go to my home, and there was 3 uh, social workers, 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 2 uniformed policemen, and a detective standing in front of my yard, which was very unusual because it's a private neighborhood, and I thought maybe my house was burnt down or someone broke in, but they wanted to go inside. I did not know there's a law that says no one can enter your castle, your home, unless they have a warrant or a court order to enter your home that specifically said the name and what they want to search for or what they actually looking for. They can enter a home if it's extreme enough, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tell the police that they've tried for months to investigate, and these stories that were coming by my uh, alleged uh, problems via the family members to my wife, instead of them trying to help when I was looking for a job, were coming in. And so um, I let them in because I had nothing to hide. And with this many people, I thought, well, gee, maybe there is something awful in the home. Now, they found uh, not really anything to speak of. They had measurements made on my smoke detectors. They wanted to see if they worked. They were fishing for problems. They found that my gate was not working properly. It was loose and needed to be fixed. They said the yard needed to be spruced up, and I regret I let the yard get a little out of hand because I let my gardener go because it cost money. I had to cut corners, and I tried to do the yard as best I could. But the things like the yard or the gate, that could have been fixed. They could have offered help with that, or maybe they could social services could have paid for a fix-it man to fix that, or a gardener to come out to do that. But they really weren't finding anything in the home. They weren't finding any abuse, any neglect, and as I say, the only neglect it was. But of course, when they talk, um, I guess to the children, and they said, yes, we heard mom and dad arguing about money and about life, and they had very good arguments. Yes, that was something there that was domestic. So they were stretching things that did not warrant them to take my children immediately that day or they enter my home. If I knew better, I would have had an attorney, and he would have told me, don't do that unless they have a court order. And so, like a fool, I set myself up, and I was just trying to protect my family. And the kids, when they were interviewed at school, said nothing negative. They just said, well, gee, could you help out mom and dad? He's lost his job. They need help and stuff. They never said that some of the things, the allegations the family members were saying. So, our children loved their parents, and we had a functional family. Maybe some misjudgments on certain things, but they could be readily fixed. Well, they put them into a shelter. And this shelter is the worst example of any shelter I've seen. It is next to the dependency courts. This is where they hear your case about your family. And they also were next door to a prison with inmates not far from them, and that could influence. They had an outside play area, but it was bee infested with a beehive, and they weren't doing anything to protect the children. So suddenly my children were exposed to dangers that CPS reports that they're trying to protect us from, and they're exposed to those kinds of dangers. It wasn't until the end part of the week that they had the planning meeting for what to do with the kids, because they weren't allowing the kids to return to us. They felt the home with the parents' belongings was too much in danger and you need to fix them. Also, the parents had to work on their skills of discussing things and talking things out. Anyway, they insisted to keep them. Again, I did not have an attorney. Our attorney probably could have had the kids returned and it'd be worth it. I did get an attorney, by the way, but it's almost halfway through my case after all the damage. I tried to fight them right away. I tried to take notes. And one important tool that you need to remember that you have is you need to have some note taking. You need a ledger book, a notebook, maybe an application on a phone or a computer that you can log in everything that's happened. You need to know the location, the names, the dates, the times, and what happened and what was the outcome. Those are important things you need to do, and you need to track that because that can come useful later on. At this time, I like to remind everybody that there's 3 ways you can interact with this show. I'm Bob Pace. I'm the host of the show called The Secret. And the secret is how to fight CPS and get your children back. One way to interact is you can text in a message with your name and the state you're from and briefly your question about your CPS case. Um, the That is done live on the show, and I can read it and put it up there on the screen for you all to see it. Another way to interact is to call in directly right now at 626-698-0990, and you can speak about your case, whether good or bad. I like to hear good stories as well as bad stories. But 99% of the time, I've heard nothing but bad stories over hundreds of people, cases all over the United States, from the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota to Buffalo to New York, down to Miami, Florida, to Houston, Texas, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, almost every state I've heard of it. And the common thing these people all have is they had their children taken away. And the thing you need besides the notebook and paper taking, you need an attorney. And that leads me to give you the number of my office, 888-6582. And you call in and you say that you want to schedule a free consultation with Mr. Vincent W. Davis. He is a family law attorney. He's a professional family law attorney. He has numerous years of experience. He's a trial attorney. He can also sue CPS and win. He can do that. He has a law firm with lots of lawyers, lots of talents. So you have to get that free consultation. Say my name, Bob Pace, and it's 888-6582. And they will help you. He will help you with a 30-minute to 1 hour strategy meeting about how to fight CPS and get your kids back. Hopefully, after talking to him, you'll want to retain him. He works in Southern California, Northern California, and all the 50 states. His fees vary on the complexity of your case and where it's located. And they're very reasonable fees. And like me, I had to sell my home to get the money or use my retirement to get the money. But your children are your most precious things. And I hate to tell you the bad news that CPS will steal your children, will alienate your children, and will not protect your children. It's horrid. The shelter that they're in, it wasn't until Friday, 5 days later, they were able to put the children in a safe place. And it was with my wife's sister and her husband. And, there they would be safe until we address our issues about my parents' furniture and belongings and stuff, and about our domestic violence on yelling and screaming and talking, those things there. So the other thing you can interact is writing text messages. And text messages, you just have to give your name and the state and something realistically about your involvement with CPS. It's not a place to write derogatory remarks or that you're upset with CPS. Yes, I know CPS is bad. They're not your friend. They do not do family reunification. They steal children and make money off off them. And how they make that money is that they're government funded through the federal and through the state. And with that money, they abuse that money. There's no watchdog of CPS. Watch where the money goes. I'll give you an example. There was money given to the foster care parents of my young son, and they spent $100. They spent loads of money on 100 pairs of socks because they had to use it up because they're going to take the money back. It's so bad that the money is just used uh, with no check and balances. And you're going to find out the social workers will lie, and there's no transparency from them. They're not there to help you. They're not your friend. The only way you're going to work through it is to have that attorney. You need that attorney, and that attorney can save your family, put it back together. Now, one thing about attorneys I want to talk about is that there's several kinds of attorneys out there. When you get a CPS case, they are required to give you a public defender. That is a new lawyer, fresh out of law school, with very little experience, that works for the government courts, and they don't pay like they do in the private sector, and they usually are saddened with 20 caseloads at one time. It's very hard to maintain that many caseloads and give time to you, so they're only going to give you 5 minutes. On top of that, they wheel and deal, and they settle for things they shouldn't be settling, and you lose your children. So it's very important that you get yourself an experienced attorney. Now, with public defenders, you may have to do it because you have no money, but you have your notes. You need to show your public defender your notes and where the problems are, and help him, and suppose you help you. But if it does not work out, you may have to get another one and another one. One guy the other day told me he had to get 37 public defenders before he got one that worked for him. So, um, it's your responsibility to pick somebody to go do it. It's like a doctor. If a doctor is going to do open surgery, you don't want a doctor that has not completed medical school, has not done an internship, or one that has a bad reputation. So when you look for attorneys, you want to look at for some keywords. You want to look for the experience, professionalism, and you want to look at them with child protection services. Have they won cases? How many cases they won? What are some of the cases? Do they involve children? Well, they do. They involve children, but do they involve sort of similar matters that's happened to you? Because you need to get an attorney. You're not going to win this on your own. I didn't on myself. In fact, I lost my girl. Our girl decided that adoption was a better way to go than being with her mom and dad. And not only did she divorce her parents, she divorced her brothers. And her brothers still see her because she's now 21 and they want to. Okay, we have someone called Heather Quillen. I just have my kids placed with a state and a dad that has no desire to help fight, and a court appointed attorney that has done absolutely nothing to help actually hurt the case. What state are you in? I'm going to put this on the show. Heather has this question for us to help her out on. Um, can you tell me more about the case? What state is this, Heather? What state is this? Tennessee. So she says it's Tennessee. Okay. Um, being in Tennessee. Now, can you tell me what your question is? I guess you got a public defender that hasn't worked out. Have you tried another public defender? Because you can replace the public defenders if you're not happy with them. Have you tried that yet, Heather? Also, have you? Uh, yeah, in Tennessee, have you can get more than one public defender. You can keep asking until you get one that work for you. Um, Heather, I do think you need to try to get yourself a professional attorney that you have to pay. You need to shop around to get that attorney. because they're going to take advantage of you. It's so bad. It really is so bad. They have all the money in the world. It's $1 billion business. They have attorneys that are shysters, and they have judges that should never be in that courtroom. My judge in the courtroom was awful. He was a collision property judge that knew nothing about families or how they found there. By the way, this election year, make sure you go out and vote. You need to vote in proper judges. That's one area that people forget. That's not important. Not only we have to, vote for presidents and measures and things like that. You need to vote for Tennessee. Okay, Heather, have you tried that? I have an attorney right now that will talk to you for 30 minutes up to an hour for strategies of how to fight CPS and get your kids back. And if you like him, you can retain him. He's reached at 888-888-6582. That's my office number. Said that Bob Pace sent you. Oh, he committed fraud. Well, unless you have some savings or family members that have savings, you need to come up with some money to fight this because it's getting worse for you. And that's what CPS does. They'll make your case really bad. They're not there to improve your life. They're there to make money. It's $1 billion money, and they're going to keep doing that. Um, so, you're about the fourth person I heard from Tennessee. So, I know it's a tough state. Economically, maybe it's not a very wealthy state, but it still has great people like yourself that are trying to raise a family and stuff like that. So, what are the allegations that CPS has allegated against you? What are they? Can you tell me what the allegations are? Maybe that will help me a little bit. Okay, she says the allegations are they've been trying to get Mr. Davis and I haven't heard. Oh, I've been trying to have Mr. Davis get back to me. And okay, when you called into the show, did you uh, ask for a schedule a time with Mr. Davis? And if you did, it's important you say my name, Bob Pace, because what I can do is I can text Mr. Davis and give him your name. And what are the allegations, though? You say it's fraud, but what was the allegations that they're investigating initially? What are the allegations? I have a winnable case in my favor. Absolutely no evidence against me, but once fraud is committed, then it's void not. Okay, well, fraud about what? I don't know what your allegations are. That's the important thing to know here because, uh, if you don't know that. So, um, if there's committed some fraud, that's pretty bad there, um, Heather. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Um, but I need to know the allegations. How many children is this involving? One, two, or several children? And where are the children? Okay. Okay. You got foreclosure on and upon remove the officers found paraphernalia and called the Department of Child Services under illegal search and seized the Department of Children's Services turned in. The father had been served and was not. So he got foreclosed. Upon the removal, the officers found paraphernalia and called DCS under illegal search and seizure act. The DC attorney turned the father in has been served. Um, 2 children under 6, and I don't know where they are. They won't tell me. So your case has been going on. So the allegations is that you guys were moving out of your home, and um, paraphernalia was found. Now, who found the paraphernalia? Was it the police? I mean, who found it? Who found it? Heather, would you like to call in the show right now? And this way, instead of me asking back and forth, that you can talk about your case, Heather from Tennessee. Um, that phone number 626-698-0990. Call in, and I'll put you live on the show. Okay, people bagging the stuff up and alerted the police. Yeah. Well, it's got to the point now where allegations are coming on for all kinds of reasons and so forth. And that's something that should be a work out thing there. Can you call in to talk? Or are you okay to talk there? Yeah, the police are professional. By law, they're required to report anything suspicious, and that is enough for them to recall DCS, Department of Child Services. They'll call the social services. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to put you on speakerphone.
Yes.
Uh, Go ahead. This is Heather Quillen from Tennessee.
Yes.
And go ahead and talk about your case.
Okay, so we got foreclosed on. The property got sold, and they got a writ of possession. On the day that they come and executed the writ, the officers removed me from the property, of course, and that's all they're allowed to do. They had 6 people in my home that day bagging up things and just tossing it out in the yard. Apparently, some of them found some paraphernalia, and I guess they told the officers, because then the officers went and called DCS and made a report.
Yeah, they're required by law. Any professional, school teachers, counselor, fireman, anything, and they see something.
I understand that. I understand.
Yeah, that's what like that. And the thing is, did you know that the paraphernalia was there? Did you know about it yourself?
Yeah, I knew it was there, but they were not supposed to be bagging my stuff up. Tennessee law requires them to store the belongings for 30 days in a place that I can get to them and that it's not destroyed.
Well, they're going to have to bag it.
Going out in the yard.
Yeah, they're going to bag it and take it in. That's what happened to you. Again,
they bagged it, threw it in the yard, and then put it in dumpsters.
Right. What they can do, what CPS should have done or DCS should have done is to work out a plan to remediate action. Like if you agree to get rid of the paraphernalia and maybe take some parenting classes of having that stuff around children under the age of 18, that is a plan. I don't know if it's extreme enough plan to take your children away. Did you have a place for them to live, your children?
Well, once we got thrown out that day, we went and we were staying in Airbnbs, which I mean is the same as a house. It's the same as renting a house.
Right.
I mean, we were staying in nice houses, and but that was one thing, is they had a problem with the children not staying in a stable location. Well, we just got kicked out of our home.
It's a horrible thing for eviction. I've gone through that. I know it's a horrible thing, and it was something that I've learned now what I should do and not do and so forth. And there's a ways you can.
DCS didn't have any valid proof of whether or not anybody had drugs in their system.
Well, you don't have to
So,
have drugs. You can just have a bag of even marijuana laying around, and your children are in that house. They're going to get busted. You don't have to have it in your
right,
system.
right. But I mean, for DCS to file for custody of the children, don't they have to have a proof of something?
No, they. That's the problem that people don't understand. It isn't like a criminal matter where you are innocent till you're proven guilty. Like if someone searches your car and finds pot or whatever, things like that, you will be given a ticket and you have to appear in court. You're not taken away.
Right.
But with minors, it's totally different. If, for instance, if you're in a car and you're with your kids and you have some drugs laying around the glove compartment or things like that, you will have your kids taken away from you temporarily. Now they can be put with family members. That's usually the best action is to have an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, or a brother or sister take care of your children while you go through the system of addressing the issues. It's I mean, you did a hiccup and you probably didn't know the serious of the ramifications, but CPS has no tolerance. They say that you're guilty on allegations and you have to be proven
Right.
innocent. So that's the downside of
Okay.
it. So they're very right in what they did. And the people bagging your
But it was
stuff.
almost 3 months afterwards that they even took it to court. Don't they
Well,
have a
that's the
time period
problem
they
is
have to file
the
an
court
action?
systems are slow because there's too many cases. And we had a period of time during the COVID where it was really impossible with the court, with the video courts and things, and kids were left alone. I agree with what you're saying. If it was me, I would have set up a plan to find some place for your kids to have a stable environment. And, a shelter, a group home, foster care is not the answer.
Right.
But it is,
Because
but
this
it is
happened in
what they
October,
use. It is
and
what
then we
they
just
is
had
what
them
they
removed
use.
it
Yeah,
on Friday.
yeah. But there's problems with all those kinds of facilities. The group home that my kids were put into were run by Boys Town, and Boys Town philosophy is take care of children that don't have mothers and fathers, and so they were taught.
But does DCS not have a certain amount of time that they have to act?
Yes, there is. That's the problem is without an attorney, and I'm not an attorney here. There are things you need to navigate and know your rights, and that's one of the hardest things
Right.
people have when you don't have money. I had to sell my home
Yes.
to get it there. I had to use all my family's inheritance. I had to use all my resources. And you sometimes have to do the same thing. But it's really hard when you're at your stage of life where you're homeless, where you suddenly without a home and you're fighting to exist. And it's a sad state of affairs because you need somebody to help you, and it does take money. And I'm there's a lot of things you can Google, a lot of things you can learn on. You can start with Tennessee and
Yeah,
how,
that's what I've been doing.
yeah, how to fight
I know that you have
CPS.
the full due
Yeah,
process of law, and then with the attorney stating on an affidavit that she swore to that he had been properly served when he wasn't even served at all.
yeah, they lie,
So
they lie
it's
and
all in
cheat.
court.
They actually, I had one person calling the other day. They're from New York, and the person was fighting. His older son was accused of molesting his children, and the father of the older son still had young children, and it was a really complex thing. But there was a document that supposedly existed that didn't really exist that fabricated the whole thing. You see, with the way it's set up now, it's allegations. I think one way to get away from the allegations is that, first of all, a person is going to allegate something, they need to put it in writing and sign their name. When they do so, that document can be used to prosecute them if they lied or they cheated and stuff. Problem is with on a phone call, it's like hearsay. I mean, they talk on the phone and their freedom. They don't have to maybe show their face, and they don't. There's not a background check on them or anything else. Now, a school teacher, a fireman, a policeman are professionals. They're required by law to
Well,
report
I
it.
mean, it was the DCS attorney that stated that he had been served.
Well, I understand,
So
but you have to understand the rude awakening. 99% right now of CPS is fraudulent. I mean, they steal your children. They will cause
they
you.
kidnap him, and then
I
that's
know
causing his
it's
humanity.
they are actually legal kidnapping, and I know because the idea is that the longer the child's in the system, the more money they can get. It's $1 billion business,
Yes, exactly.
and we have to fight that. We have to make changes, and there's a lot of changes that have to be made. And so, with that being said, you have an uphill battle, and somehow, Heather, you have to get um, some legal help to navigate and know your rights. And that's the problem is knowing all the rights. There's like a form. Do you know what a 388 is?
Yes, that's a motion to get the judge to uh, on his order
Right.
to
The
take
change
back his
the
order.
change order is based on new evidence and new findings that you come. Right. Okay. I'm good. I'm glad you did your homework. I didn't know a lot of these things, and when I got an attorney, I learned a lot of these things, and uh, and now I've through the whole
Well,
nine
my
yards.
attorney is supposed to be going to the courthouse today to file to be removed because I told her that I absolutely was not going to have an attorney to just sit in court with their mouth shut and allow this proceeding to continue. I
Yeah.
said, I understand you have to protect the bar and you have to protect the judge before you do your client. I said, but I'm not going for that. I'm not.
Well, you have a right
I'm
for
not going
that.
to allow you to have
In
that
in
disrespect.
Tennessee, are you allowed to hear the proceedings? Are you allowed to be in the courtroom?
Yes.
You're lucky because in California, in dependency court, you're not allowed as a parent in the courtroom. You only come in there when they're ready to have something ordered to you or sign something, so you don't know what the attorneys say or do. Do you take
Oh,
notes?
that's scary.
I know that's scary. I mean, in California, it's really scary, but do you take notes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what you need to
Yeah.
do is use your notes against them, and you can find there is a way to find a attorney there. Have you tried calling our office to speak to Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I've called and I've left messages, and I know he is so busy because he's like the best around in the United States. So I know he's super busy.
Yeah, he is, but there's also a schedule of his schedule there. If you look at the bottom part of my screen, there's a ticket, and it says you can look at his schedule and schedule the time around that. So calling in first, you look at his schedule on the website. It comes up pretty good
Oh,
here. It's https colon forward slash uh, CALENDLY.com / APPTSVWD. That is his schedule, and he repeats itself throughout the show. So you can write that down and check his schedule. Then call in and say, I understand
right.
Mr. Davis has an opening on that date. Can I grab it? And that's one way. Another way is what you're doing now is talking on the show, listening to what I'm saying, and I'm trying to help you out as best I can. But I'm not a lawyer. I just have had 9 years dealing with CPS. 3 of them were actively. I'm still feeling the repercussions. I'm 74 years old now, and I'm feeling the repercussions. And it's a heartbreaking matter to me. It's really still very much emotional because I lost my home. I lost one of my 6 children, and my other 2 remaining young children with me are really messed up because of it. There's a lot of people that end up in the system that get stuck in foster care all their life. They go and have children, and then they are messed up. So there's got to be some changes made, and the only way to do that is in the political circle. There, you need to talk to your representatives and get someone to hear you and listen to you and fight for your rights. We
Right.
this is one reason why we have elections. We're a democratic society. We do have elections. Things do take time. There was an old activist, Pat Hayden, that used to work with Jane Fonda, and he all the time would lead marches and try to change things during the Vietnam War and stuff. He later got involved in politics and became a senator. So, you can make changes. There are people across the country that come from all walks of life, and they can make changes. And it's important that everybody gets out and exercises their right to vote. A lot of people don't vote because they give up; they think it's hopeless. But voting can make
Yeah, the
changes.
father said I should just sit back and just let what happens happens. And I said, you don't get anywhere by that. You don't make changes by being silent.
No, you're right, but you won't
Now,
make
this is not just
changes
for me. This is
by
for
being
any
a
parent
rebel
that
either.
ever walks into the courtroom after me.
Yeah, you won't make changes being a rebel either. You have to work in the system and work it. Even one of the candidates for president is someone who's making changes because he's not a politician. He is strictly a person as a businessman, and I think it's a good idea that businessmen or businesswomen run countries. Politicians, no offense to them, they are usually to their means, and so my judge in
My
my
plan is to
case,
get my children back and then fight DCS
right,
on a
right.
different level.
Well, to get your children back, you have to do everything you ask, and then some more. You got to eat a lot of dirt and a lot of heartache. But if you keep at it, you will get your children back. You will get it
Well,
back.
see, the thing is, the Supreme Court ruled that it is not a crime to be poor. They
I
cannot
realize that.
make you have a certain standard of living
Right.
just because that's what they want.
Right.
And they can't go
Right.
above the Supreme Court and say that their rulings are not, official.
Okay, Heather from Tennessee, I'm going to have to sign off because my show's 1 hour and I've already gone over a bit to try to help
I'm
you out
sorry.
here. But again, keep listening. I'll sign off, but make sure you call in and get Vincent Davis to help you out. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And then call me back again. I welcome you back to the show anytime you want to talk and you want to be on the guest on the show. There's numbers on the screen that will help you out. So it was nice talking to you. Good luck getting your kids back. God bless you. Okay. Um, I've run way over my time here. I think it's probably the longest show yet. Again, this is Bob Pace. I've been your host, Fighting with CPS. I just interviewed a guest, Heather Quillen from Tennessee, the ropes end because there's a lot of fraud. She's going through a horrible time, as lots of Americans are in the United States. We are going through really troubled times. We are in a troubled world. And the thing is, we got to take care of each other. And the best way to do it is talk it out, talk to your politicians, become a politician yourself, become involved, make sure you vote, and so forth. And don't give up your beautiful children. You can call in at 888-888-6582. That's my office. And you can schedule a time that you like to speak on the show, a date and a time. Or if you like some consultation from a professional family law attorney with trial experience, as Vincent W. Davis, he'll give you 30 minutes up to an hour of his time to help out with strategies. And again, I'm on daily at 10 in the morning and at 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. And I'll be more than happy to help you there. I try to relate my experiences, and also I try to find topics that talk about different things. I don't know if you know what ICWA is, but that's the Indian Welfare Child Act of 1979. There's a lot of information there for our Native American uh, Indians. And so I try to bring in different things, different days, and different topics, and I try my best to make it informative and helpful. So, again, thank you all, my listeners out there. God bless you all. I want your new year to be very successful and um, much, much happiness. With that being said, God bless. And I'm Bob Pace signing off.